Uh, Hello everyone. In this video we are going to discuss about the callback functions in JavaScript. So every time, let's start with the definition of callback function. So here I have listed out 3 points. Let's read it. So callback function is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. Now, this is a pretty confusing statement. We'll get back to this statement. We'll see how it can be done. Now, these are generally used to handle something after a piece of code has been executed. Say for example, you're running a function and you want to execute some code or some amount of code after that function has finished execution. Okay, so callback functions can be run with both synchronous and asynchronous code, but in most of the cases it is run with asynchronous code. So I have one example ready here. So this is pretty much a function. It's an add function. It takes 2 arguments and just returns the sum, and I have called the function here. Now if I run this here, you know what the output is, right? You know it will give me the sum. Now what if I want this function here, or some other function or some piece of code to execute after this function has finished the execution, right? Now we'll read this line again. Callback function is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. We'll try to match this. What I'll do is I want to accept another argument here. I'll name this callback. You can name this anything. So this will be a function. So it will be a function. I want to run this function after this code has been executed. So what I'll do is inside this add call, I'll pass this function. I have passed after as a third argument to add function. Now what can I do here is I can do this. I can call this function here. Now what should it do is when I call this add 2 3, it takes 2 3 and this after function as a parameter here. Now this parameter, the function that has been taken as a parameter, is called a callback function, and the function which holds this function, the parent function, is called a higher order function. So we'll dig deep in higher order function in some other video, but this is all about callback. So this is, just remember this is called a higher order function, this is a callback function. Now let's run this and see what we get. See, we got the output. Sum is +5 and it says I was called afterwards. So we have successfully called this function after this has been executed. So this is with the synchronous code, and this does not make much sense, because you can say that okay, after this I have to execute some other code after this function. So I can do it here as well. I can write something after this function and it will do pretty much the same task for me. Yes, you are right. That is why it is not such useful with synchronous thing, but it is essentially useful when you are dealing with asynchronous code. We'll see that in a second. We'll see the asynchronous code, how you handle callbacks in asynchronous code. Before starting with asynchronous code, I would like to add something more to this synchronous code here. So in some other programming languages you might not have seen a function taking a function as an argument, but this is pretty common in JavaScript. This can be done here because essentially a function in JavaScript is an object. Now this is another statement here, but yes, a function is an object in JavaScript. To prove this, because what happens in object is you can add properties, you can add functions, you can do the same thing in functions as well, pretty much same thing. So if I do something like this, to add, I can add a local property here which can say this dot a equal to a. I can say this dot b equal to b. I can even declare a function here similar to what can I do in objects. So if I do this dot a, this dot b, this will pretty much give me the same result. See, I got the same result, which is essentially saying that a function in JavaScript is an object. To prove this even more, what we can do is I can do something like this. I'll log another statement and I'll say the function or add function if this is an instance of an object, if whatever I said till now is true, if this add function is an object, this log should evaluate to true. This is the moment of truth, guys. So let's run this and see. Okay, we are getting true. So this is a object. Add function is an object. Every function in JavaScript is an object. So okay, for now let's continue with some asynchronous code. Let me undo all this. I'll use the same function again for my async code. What I'll do here is I'll just change the name to say add async. Let's change add async. To mimic asynchronous call, that I'll do is I'll write a set timeout function, say for a timeout of 3000 milliseconds, which is 3 seconds, right, or whatever you want, and I'll log this statement here. Okay, now what it should do is it should evaluate this statement after 3 seconds, because this is what essentially an API call will do. If you are fetching something from server, it will take some amount of time. So that is mimicking an asynchronous code here. You can even write your API if you want. Or let's run this. Let's see what is happening here. Okay, it is taking 3 seconds. It will take 3 seconds and it runs here. Now, what is my callback function useful for here? Because as we saw in synchronous thing, I told you that okay, we can write something here. This will execute obviously after the function, because after you are calling the function, if you are writing something after that, it will be executed after it. But in case of asynchronous code, if I am writing this after I am calling the function, let's see what I'm getting. Okay, let me check what. Okay, I'm saying callback. I have to call it after, because the function name is after. Now I was called afterwards is executed first, because JavaScript is not waiting for you to execute this code, because this takes some more time to execute it. JavaScript won't wait here. It will go to the next line. It will run all this code. That is where your callback functions will make an impact, because I want to execute something after my API call has been resolved or I have received the data. This is where your callback function will help you a lot. You might have worked with promises in JavaScript. The callbacks are used extensively there. So I will cover promises in JavaScript in next few videos, but this is essentially what callback is and what it is used for. I hope you have liked this video. If you want to cover me some other topic, you just let me know in comments, or if you want some series to be covered, maybe we'll start with Node.js in a separate series with Node.js. Do you want me to come out with a separate playlist, or even a long course, something like a course for around 2-3 hours, in which we'll create some APIs and host it on some platform? So please let me know. In next video we'll probably discuss about what is promises, how it can be used for our API calls, and what else. So that's it for this video. Thank you.